Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Pensensions that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Let's Get Down to Business. On this edition, I'm going to be chatting with one of St. Vincent's finest brains. You'll meet him when we come back.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Pensensions that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
Welcome back, and this is Let's Get Down to Business. My guest on this edition it's the profile edition, and I'm profiling Sean Sutherland, who is an accomplished pianist and an academic. Sean, pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, Tony.
And I was very glad to grab the opportunity because I know you're here to accept the Anthony Sabga Award in Excellence,
Yes.
Which is quite something to be bestowed on you. Tell me a bit about that.
Okay, so this is a regional award. Each year they recognize at least 4 laureates from across the Caribbean in 4 different areas. I think entrepreneurship is one, science, technology, the arts and letters, which is the prize that I received. Can't remember the last one right now. But the way it works is that there's a whole nomination selection process that's across the Caribbean, yes.
Right.
And so there'll be some committees that, make nominations and put forward candidates, and then the regional committee will make a selection.
Right.
So this year I was jointly selected for the arts and letters with Maria Nunes, photographer from Trinidad, whom I happen to know, who happened to photograph me on one of when I performed in Trinidad with the National Steel Orchestra. So it was kind of interesting knowing that you jointly bestowed the award with someone, only to find out, oh yes, I do know that person.
Well, it's quite a prestigious award,
Yes,
and a magazine is produced, basically, which shows all the awardees.
Yes.
And of course, you are prominently featured. Sean Sutherland, Arts and Letters, Joint Laureate 2021, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
That's right.
Something we should be very proud of. You're an accomplished pianist. And in this interview, I think we're going to spend most of our time talking about that.
Okay.
And you're also an academic.
Okay. Yeah.
And we're going to spend our time talking about that as well.
Sounds like a plan.
3 years of age, you said in your bio sketch, was when you realized that music was your forte. 3 years, very young. Tell me, how did that hit you?
There are baby pictures of me playing amongst my parents' records, and I'm sure I was listening to a lot of music. Ken Beach was my neighbor downstairs, and I'm sure he played guitar quite a lot. And so what I do remember is at some point being able to follow the harmonic changes in Bob Marley's Redemption song.
That's what you're
which
talking
was
about.
very popular at the time.
Right.
And I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
It's just that something clicked in my brain and I know I could follow, okay, it went this way, then that way, this chord, that chord, and I was able
You
to
actually
follow it.
described that as one with minimalist arrangement.
Yes,
right?
it is. Yeah.
So I guess with your young 3-year-old brain,
Yes.
that was quite a nice
Yeah.
melody to grab you.
Yeah, and harmony as well. And I
Yes.
think part of it is probably because Ken was downstairs playing guitar as well.
Mhm.
So that arrangement is just guitar and voice. And
Right.
so for me, I was just able to follow. So it's just maybe a culmination of different things
Right.
at that point that led me to that point.
And you never looked back really, because even at 3 years of age, there were things along your life journey at a very young age that kept bringing you back
Yes,
to music.
yes.
And there's a sequence of events, people as well, who influence you along that way. Tell us about that.
So I do remember going into primary school. Jean Johnny was the music teacher at prep school at the time, Kingston Prep School. And we would have choirs, each class would have a choir and we'll go up to the music room, which was just attached to the tuck shop.
Was this what they call choral singing?
Yes. that's the name they use back then, choral singing.
Right.
And so there was that tradition, getting choirs ready for the music festival. And so choral singing was definitely a part of our curriculum back then. So I would remember, there were many songs that she would play that were very catchy, especially the introductions, and I would be very focused on the piano. And there was this one, the very first concert we were preparing for, which was a Christmas concert, Infant One. I turned up in the wrong uniform.
And so you couldn't participate.
And I couldn't participate.
And you were devastated.
I was devastated.
Inconsolable, you said.
Inconsolable I was. And so to appease me, they put me to sit in front of the concert. So I don't know, those of you who know prep school, there's that classroom at the very top where it's a little raised.
Be careful. It depends on what prep school you're talking
No,
about.
I think it's
your era.
My era. I think it's the same. I don't think they change. Just from what I'm looking, when I drive by, I don't think they changed much.
Sean, I went to prep school too.
Okay.
And prep school was not the same prep school. That's why I'm telling you, be careful.
Fair enough. But I think, when I was there, the classroom to the top, downstairs, it's raised in comparison to the others. So what that did is it created a stage.
Right.
So you would open all the dividers and the other classrooms below.
It's almost like an amphitheater.
Yes, except without,
But
yes. And so the pianos moved in there and I was sitting in front looking at this and, being inconsolable. And Vaughan Lewis came out,
This is Dr. Vaughan Lewis.
Dr. Vaughan Lewis, we're
Who
talking
is
about.
now
Yes.
a senior engineer at Villek.
Yes. So he played a solo, some Christmas tune, I don't remember. And I was like, yep, that's my medium.
Just there and then.
Yeah.
There and then. So
Yes.
how did you, because you didn't have a piano, you
No, I
had
didn't
no
have
access to a piano.
No.
You were actually there to sing,
I was there
which
to
you couldn't
sing.
do, right? And Vaughan impressed you,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yes.
Vaughan is my friend. I have to tell him about this.
We had the same piano teacher afterwards. So I even played duets with him in music festivals.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. And how did you eventually put your hands on a keyboard?
I think I made my intentions known, and eventually my dad sent me one from New York.
But before that, you wanted your parents to send you to music lessons, and it was a flat out no.
Yes.
That must have been, in your mind, a real disappointment, a setback.
Yes, but I mean, it's something that you can process really at that age, except to know, okay, your parents said no to something that you want to do. And so my begging and pleading went on for months, and actually years, because I would go to church and I would see, the organ being played or the piano being played, and I'm like, come home, I wanted lessons. And, then there were a series of excuses, which didn't make any sense to me.
But let's just talk about this, because I don't want your parents then to be coming over as really
No.
the Grinch, as it were.
Yeah.
they must have been
Yes.
weighing up the
Yes.
sacrifice
Yes.
and weighing up what they thought was
Yes.
the best way to spend their resources on
Precisely.
making you somebody.
Precisely. I had two younger siblings at the time.
Yeah.
One was around a year old and another one on the way at the time. So I'm sure that was definitely a factor in there, as well as there was no one in my family who studied music. So there wasn't a history of, oh, this is the path that you take towards becoming a musician or at least even pursuing piano lessons.
And I think you also have to, now as you're an accomplished person, I think if you look back at that time, music was definitely not something within our culture
Yes.
that
Yes.
meant anything other than just to entertain.
Precisely.
And this was not an occupation.
And lower middle class ambitions would not even acknowledge that as well.
Correct.
And this is one thing I've come full circle on. Like I read that book on Shakin, The Riff, recently.
Right.
Very phenomenal book. I highly suggest that a lot of people read it. And what that does, it really shows you what can happen. And I think his story would have been known to my parents. Because at that time he was here and he was having a difficult time. And so I think that being their model, they probably did not want me going down a similar path.
Well, it has to be the reality of anybody in the artistic field, whether you're a model, a musician, photographer, people, it's an intangible profession. It's not something you could touch, feel, and there's no script to say, this is how you're going to get taken up from the labor force, right? And so and as you say, a lot of people who pursue the fine arts and so on, a lot of them don't make it.
Yes.
Okay. So your parents were understandably not particularly encouraging,
Yes. And this is the thing that is very tricky. You could examine why people do not make it. And what does it mean to make it? Does it mean that you have a steady job, as we spoke about before, that you are able to say, okay, I'm having X amount of money come in per month, and that means I've made it? Is that what that means? It's arguable that if you do give people entrepreneurial skills where they're able to, execute on ideas they may have, then they'll be in a better position to actually make whatever they want, pursuing their passions lucrative. Right. But that doesn't mean on a whole just pursuing what you love is not lucrative. It's the whole. And any field of endeavor, you need to know how to make that lucrative. It's just that some are, a little bit more straightforward.
Some are more straightforward. But Sean, you eventually took music lessons. How did this finally materialize?
I think after a while, and my consistent pleading, the resources availed themselves, because I think my siblings were born and things probably settled down a bit, and then I was sent.
What age was this now?
Around 7.
7.
So we had about 2 years of begging.
Right. Now, is it your opinion that had you started earlier, I mean, you're fairly accomplished, but had you started earlier, do you think
I would have been further, quote unquote?
Further ahead?
I think so. I mean, yes and no. I mean, what is tricky is I could talk about the one thing that was challenging when I was pursuing it at that age, which was the cartoons were on TV around 3 to 5. For those of you who do not know, remember, or do not know, cartoons were on SVG TV, and SVG TV was the only TV station we had, and they came on between 3 and 5. And when school is done, if you want to look at cartoons, that's your window of opportunity.
No music.
And if piano lessons are at 4:30, kind of
there's a conflict.
There's a conflict there. There's no, I could just record them, because then that assumes that you have a DVD.
Something to record.
Device at home. So it was a bit of that was the one thing I think that
pulled you away?
Pulled me away. It didn't work clearly, but
Yes.
that was one thing. So I think, yes, if I had started earlier, I may have been further, yes.
It may have been more in your blood, if that's possible at all.
Yeah.
Sean, we're at the end of the first segment. So when we come back, we'll continue that journey in music. And of course, we got to talk about your academics, which is something, again, that you downplay.
Yes.
But you're not a,
I'm not a slouch.
You're not an ordinary
I'm not a slouch.
person. You're looking at Let's Get Down to Business, more with Sean when we come back.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Fincentions that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Let's Get Down to Business. On this edition, I'm going to be chatting with one of St. Vincent's finest brains. You'll meet him when we come back.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Fincentions that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
This is Let's Get Down to Business. I am featuring on the profile edition Sean Sutherland, who is an accomplished pianist and also quite an accomplished academic. Sean, you are playing music now, or you're in a formal setting where you're being taught music. Who was your first music teacher?
My first piano teacher was Lois Topsy Williams. Of New Montrose. She was the organist at the Anglican Cathedral in Queenstown.
Right. You have a lot of church in your background as well. Do you think that also had a lot to do with keeping you close to music? Because the avenues for music then, the outlets, then,
yes.
Church was a big one, eh?
Church is a big one. I played for Sunday evening services at the Methodist Church, so I'm a Methodist. And I played for choirs once I got into grammar school. junior choir, then Mr. Prescott, who's the organist at Kingston Methodist, formed a group called the New Life Singers, and that was a bunch of younger teenagers and young adults at the time. And we did a lot of contemporary music, Christian contemporary music, so I trained them and played for them as well. So church, yes, did provide a lot of opportunities. The thing is too, with playing piano in a church setting, you play a lot of hymns, particularly in the quote-unquote more established churches. You play a lot of hymns that
have a classical background.
Have more of a classical and formal harmonic changes and structures. So that helped a lot in terms of my theory, understanding music theory.
And very early on, and as you write in your bio sketch there, very early on, you weren't just interested in the piano, but you're interested in classical piano.
Yeah.
What was driving that?
I think piano for me it's a challenge, and the piano literature is quite wide, and I just like the sound of piano, and I like the literature. And so one good thing that Mrs. Williams did is she encouraged me to sight read. Because I was flying through a lot of the pieces in my method book. So John Shum was the method that we use. She'll assign 2 pieces and I'll be 5 pieces, but ahead and this sort of thing by the time I get back to my lesson. So what she did is that she would give me books once I played the assigned pieces, then bring books and tell me to sight read it. And for those of you who don't know, sight reading is basically the ability to pick up a sheet of music and read it. And what that did by developing that skill was that I was able to play not anything, but it allowed me to pursue stuff at home on my own. So I would go to the bookstores and scout out a lot of music at my level or a little above, and I would actually learn it and play it. So that, again, helped me to further develop.
As you talk about levels, your formal music teaching, you're following a particular system, if you want.
Yes, the Royal Schools.
The Royal Schools,
yes. Theory and practical.
Yes. And you were examined and there were different grades?
Yes, from grades 1 to 8.
So that was pretty much a formal structure. Do you, you're back here now, this is 2021, do you get a sense that what obtained then, is that still happening now?
Yes.
In a big way?
Yes. I spoke with Mr. Paris 2 nights ago, actually. And he was telling me that there are 2 students who are pursuing grade 8 here.
Great.
So yes, it's still around. It's still going. It's not going. Hasn't gone anywhere.
You're coming up to common entrance.
Yes.
That's what they call it in the day.
Yes.
And you blaze through that. You become the top performer.
Yes, but I wasn't pegged for the first place though. But I ended up first place. Yes.
You ended up first place.
Yes.
Was that more of an accomplishment then for you and your parents? Or, did you just sort of look at that as another thing and your mind was really...
No. It was an accomplishment. For me, like, I always took school seriously. And so doing well in school, mattered to me. And so doing well in common entrance mattered. Yes.
You're trying to come first?
Yes.
Well, that's good.
I mean, I'll say this, yes. And I think also at prep school, there was, quite a bit of competition and they had someone else pegged to come first.
Right.
That
must have been a good feeling.
Yeah, it was a good feeling, I must say.
Into grammar school. Of course, grammar school now is this all boys environment. Lots of other distractions there, sports. I'm imagining
I
your
suck at
era,
sports, so
so that
wasn't much of a
that didn't distract you at all. Football, cricket, those things.
I suck at that.
Right. So how did you manage to continue the music discipline?
Because I did not play sports, and by that time I was firmly I loved piano, so there was very little to distract me. I studied violin for a little bit in the early years of grammar school, but the problem I had with violin was that I can read the music much faster than I can play, and so I was very frustrated by it.
That sort of interests me. You can read fast and you can play.
Yes.
So as a sports person, you talk about hand-eye coordination. So it's not that.
No, it's not that.
So it's brain-hand coordination.
Well,
What
yes,
is it?
maybe a bit of hand-eye. Okay, so what is it? In piano, the way it's written, one hand is written on one staff, and the left hand is on one staff, the right hand is typically on the other. So as a pianist, you're used to reading two lines of music simultaneously all the way through. Violin is just one line. So having played piano for, by this time, about, my math is probably off, 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, yeah, about 4 or 5 years. I'm used, and then, like I said, I was sight reading way above my level.
Right.
So I could read any of the scores, no problem. Just that I couldn't do it as quickly.
Just couldn't keep up.
And I realized that took a certain level of effort and discipline to get to that level, and I preferred the piano. So let's focus.
So you went right back there.
Yeah. So I kind of
as you were moving through these grades, you were made a significant offer to go to England.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So again, typical Sean style. I'm like, this is the goal. I started learning the pieces 2 years before. I the pieces, decided what pieces I wanted to do. Got recordings of them, the whole shebang. Worked in them with Mrs. Williams, had them memorized, which is something I had not done for the earlier grades. So the exam was pretty much a walk in the park after that. Yes, I don't like oral tests. I did, I think it's keyboard harmony. Still had to do one of the oral tests. Didn't like that part. But other than that, I killed the exam. Ended up with a 139 out of 150, which
is high.
130 was distinction, and that was the highest grade I got in any of the other grades. And incidentally, the same exam that I had for grade 8 was the same one I had in grade 1.
Wow.
So that was just also coincidental. I was offered a scholarship to go to the UK. My parents said no, so let's put that in context. I was in Form 4 at the time.
A scholarship to go to the UK where?
At the Royal Schools of Music.
That's
so
what I
one
wanted
of them. So there are 4 of them. You choose one, and yes.
And I mean, and these are highly acclaimed schools.
Yes.
It doesn't get better than that.
Yes, these are schools like, for example, the Canny Masons. That's where they went to school.
And this is what age we're talking about?
This would have been 14, 15.
Right. So you hadn't done your O-levels?
No, no O-levels. Yeah.
Which people call CXCs now.
Yes, which we call CXCs. Yes.
So your parents were left with this decision. It didn't take them long to decide, mind you.
Yeah.
Go to the Royal School of Music or take that scholarship or complete your O-levels.
Yes.
And of course, it came down with an absolute no.
It came down with an absolute no, yes.
Were you dejected?
I was dejected because for me at this point, I wanted to become a concert pianist. And I worked very hard to get that scholarship. I learned the pieces, I did all of that. And so to have that dream crushed, or at the time we said, okay, can we have a deferral? But I think what bugs me a little bit about it now is that there's, you could do the research and you realize that these schools have high schools attached to them, or at least you can still go to high school, finish your secondary education, and still pursue the lessons outside of that.
Right.
And so that could have been an option, but we did not have the information.
Right.
Whether they would have allowed that is, questionable. But I had uncles in England, so I think that may have been a little bit more.
Yeah, but it must be quite a dilemma for your parents.
Yes.
Too, because I'm sure the significance of that scholarship was not lost on them.
Yeah.
But they had to make a decision.
Yes.
About your academic career.
Yes.
So again, that is presenting itself.
Yes.
It's presented itself at the music lessons.
Yes.
Question, and now it's presenting itself with a firm offer that you have to go to a very prestigious music institution. Yeah. Do you feel, Sean?
Yeah.
That had you, and I'm asking a similar question.
Yes.
To the one with the start of the music lessons. Do you feel if you had been given that opportunity, that would have been a defining point for you?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Because
why you say that?
Because the thing is with piano playing is that you need to, well, at least the belief is that you have to have a certain technical competency by a certain age. reach. So I had gotten to a certain level and I needed training at a higher level to push me forward. So not going meant that I had 3 years here, fifth form, upper six, lower six, of not having that.
Not developing that.
Not developing that then, which is very crucial for piano. And I spent a lot of time and decades trying to make up for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still feel as though I'm getting there. I'm closer now, but the point is that if I had that, yes,
that was the time.
Yes, and I was pretty gung ho at the time as well, as you can tell from the
chomping at the bit.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Have you held it against your parents?
Not formally, a little bit, but I think as you get older and you've seen life unfold, you come to reconcile with that and accept that, hey, they made the best decision they could given the information that they had. And some people would say, oh, but you had the ultimate decision. I don't think they understand Caribbean parents.
No, you did have the ultimate decision. Definitely did.
They don't. But yeah, I mean, it's something I've reconciled with.
Yeah, and they have reconciled with it.
I'm not sure. You have to ask them.
Do you think they have a feeling of guilt?
I think there's still some amount of guilt there, especially as they see that, okay, yes, I studied engineering and I'm not even working as an engineer now, quote unquote. But one could make the argument that, hey, I do have something to fall back on and I'm making a living from that. But at the same time, it's...
So tell me again, you stayed back and you did your O-levels. How did you perform?
O-levels was another one of those, Sean set a goal and I'm going after it. So I did. It's funny because I was looking at the results. A friend of mine sent it to me on Facebook a few days ago. So I did 10 subjects, which was not exactly the thing to do. A lot of people are doing 14, 15 now.
No, yes.
I think I started that trend. So please, I'm sorry.
You're the trailblazer.
I am to be blamed for that. The other guys under that were doing like 8.
It was a big achievement.
Yes. Yeah. So I added I did both languages, which you couldn't do as a science student at the time. So I was taking French with Mr. John, Lennox John in his office after school, and I did art in addition.
Right.
So
you're in the science stream.
Yes.
But you combine the art subjects, which is something that was not known necessarily. It was a normal thing. Yeah. And again, did you top the...
Yeah, I did. I didn't get the regional. That's the only thing I'm upset about. I didn't get the regional award. There was a young lady from Dominica who got 9 1s.
Right.
I got 9 1s and a 2.
So you're in the top 3.
I was second. I was second to her. Yeah.
Second in the region.
Yeah.
What's interesting talking to you is that we're talking about music, and it's like your academic achievement is second to everything. You're making it sound as if, that's just par for the course, but really,
it's a duality, and I think it's difficult for people, especially here, to understand that there are a lot of people for whom high achievement in academics and music is not abnormal. Like I have a lot of friends who are, especially now that I'm this quote unquote amateur piano world, for whom music is the same thing. You practice a lot, you can play at a very high level. And yet, yes, you're able to achieve in other areas. So it's not as infrequent as it's not unusual.
Sean, we're at the end of our second segment. So when we come back, we'll continue this very interesting discussion. You're looking at Let's Get Down to Business. My guest is Sean Sutherland, one of St. Vincent's finest scholars. More with him when we come back.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered by a company owned by Vincentians that understands your unique insurance needs? At Metrocint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrocent General Insurance Company.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Let's Get Down to Business. On this edition, I'm going to be chatting with one of St. Vincent's finest brains. You'll meet him when we come back.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vincentians that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrocent General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrocent General Insurance Company.
This is Let's Get Down to Business. I am chatting with one of St. Vincent's finest human beings, Sean Sutherland. Sean,
Yes.
Suede.
Suede, yes.
Suede is a creation of yours. And
Yes.
the 3 years that you spent pining away because you didn't get to go to the Royal School of Music, you topped the O-level results, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
You came second in the region and then went on to your A-levels. And you had to do something else. And so you formed this group. Tell me about this group, Suede.
So Suede was an idea I had for the fifth form graduation. So I was like, okay, we should have a bunch of guys sing. Just small quartet or something. A cappella quartet group, right? I wouldn't be singing because I'm clearly not a singer.
That's not your gift.
That's not my gift, no. I've been told that many times. Okay. I play better than I sing.
All right.
So I spoke to a couple guys that I know who are good singers at school, and then word got out, and then by the time we were done, we had about 10 guys. So we prepared to sing It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday by Boyz II Men, appropriate for the occasion. And by this time, word had gotten out at high school that this was happening. So in graduation, the entire upstairs of Methodist Church were completely
packed with high school girls.
Packed with high school girls. So the moment we did a small interlude to walk up from the back of the church, they did. I was up at the piano. And from the time they started with the interlude, and carrying on,
the fan club
started. So, with that warm reception, Suede became a thing.
So Suede had some names that went on to become established singers in their own right.
So Kevin Little was one of our lead singers. Addison Studdard, who's CTO at Digital Turks. He was also one of our lead singers, also Bailey as well.
Right. Your A-levels.
Yes. Then A-levels came, and yes, I got the best results for A levels.
Well, not just the best. You were the island scholar.
I was also the top island scholar.
Right.
Yeah.
So we spent the last 30 minutes talking about these achievements, and I really hope that my audience is not taking them as casual as we are speaking.
Yeah.
Because
I tend to make. Yeah,
they are significant.
I tend to make light of them.
Yeah, but they are significant.
Yes, they are.
So you got the island scar.
Yeah.
Okay. And what were you thinking about a career then?
So by the time I had taken A levels, I had already been admitted to MIT. So went into A level. Hold up. Yes.
Hold up, because you just mentioned
Yeah,
MIT as if it's a university that I can get into. I can't get into it.
You might be surprised.
Okay. This is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Yes.
Which is like
the world's foremost institution for engineering, science and engineering, yes. And economics as well, and political science, by the way.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So we need to say that again, right?
Yes.
You got into
so I applied to
foremost
yes.
institute
yes.
for engineering.
Yes, because at the time, if I'm not doing music and we're going to go down the road of science and technology, I thought, okay, I'm going to the best school for that. At least apply to it. And part of it is because, I mean, I had gotten tired. We do have limited resources, here in terms of, labs not having equipment all the time and all of that. So none of that. Let's go to the best school.
Why do you, in your bio sketch or your short autobiography that you wrote, why do you say that engineering and music were like disparate disciplines?
Because I double majored in music and engineering at MIT, and none of the courses overlapped. So if I had done math and computer science, or math and engineering, or math physics, there were some people who were triple majoring in math, physics, and engineering. They feed each other. There's a symbiosis that's going on there that music does not have.
Right.
And if I'm trying to play piano and practice, that's time away from studying engineering. Right. So they were in a sense disparate.
So that's why you say they were disparate.
Yes.
But you managed to pursue your engineering, but not what you exactly wanted to do. You wanted to do aeronautical and chemical engineering.
Yes.
One or the other.
So first it was chemical because I loved chemistry. I think to me, the thing I loved about chemistry was that their rules and their, atoms, compounds or whatever, you can mix them and match them, and there's a certain creativity that goes along with that, in reflection, right? Yeah. I enjoyed that. And so I was drawn to that. And I also like large scale plans and that sort of, because I think by then I'd gone on a trip to Guyana where we had visited the sugarcane factories and the rum factories and seen all these plants and all. Like, I like that.
See,
that caught me.
That turned you on.
That turned me on.
But
my parents and immediate family were not too enthused by that because they thought that would lead to me just teaching. Because if you were to come back to St. Vincent, the only thing you could do with chemical engineering is teach chemistry.
We go again, Sean.
Yes.
And this is becoming
a recurring theme.
At important junctures in your life.
Yeah.
Decisions that you were more than inclined to make.
Yeah.
What you really want to do. The compromise had to be made. Yeah. Yeah.
So what I ended up doing was saying, okay, I want to do engineering. I don't want to do pure science for the same reason that if you do pure science, then you could only teach. So it was literally, okay, I'm not a mechanical person. I don't dig up in cars. That's not happening.
Right.
Civil, no. So then it kind of left me with electrical. And the thing is with electrical, I could either work at Cable and Wireless or I could work at Vinlec when I get back. And that was the decision.
That's an amazing thing, because I worked for Cable and Wireless, right?
Yeah.
And that's really no great achievement. To be okay, I'm not.
Says the guy but wasn't the general manager.
I wasn't the general manager, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You are like on a path.
Yeah.
Heading.
Yeah.
For
Yes.
almost to orbit,
Yeah.
right? Outer space.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about, or somebody's thinking for you that prepare yourself to come back to that.
Yes. So factored into that decision was that my dad, who was by the time, yes, a U.S. citizen, had passed. So he died that would have been September of upper six. So around the time we were trying to decide, okay, should he be filing paperwork for me or not? That decision, and yes, I was applying to schools in the U.S. So how do we time that? And then one call, and that was it. He's passed in an accident. So that kind of changed my perspective. And again, lack of information. This is
Change
not
your perspective and trajectory
quite a bit, because I wasn't as gung-ho about after that. I was, because you can see from up until that point, I would set my mind to something and achieving it like that.
Yeah.
I think my dad always tried to push me to be a little bit more balanced. And so on his passing, I tried to, I guess, honor some of his wishes by not being as gung-ho.
Or being on the edge, living on the edge.
Not necessarily on the edge, just being like this constant overachiever.
Yeah.
I think that toned down a bit. Yeah.
But nonetheless, you found some useful contacts while you're at MIT.
Yeah.
And I think contacts that kept you glued to music.
Yeah.
And by this time, Sean, you are pretty good at your art, right? And you, I think, are doing some performances there at MIT. And you mentioned the Berklee School of Music, which was across the river, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That was a pull? Was that?
Not quite, because the thing is that MIT kept you pretty busy. It's what the saying was, not to discourage anyone, but it's a pressure cooker environment. And so you always felt this sense of guilt when you're not studying. So I did not spend a lot of time at Berklee, and then Berklee also is known for the more popular music than classical music. So the school that would say had any pull, if there were any, would have been the New England Conservatory, which is again a very prestigious school.
So the music icons that the classical musicians, the icons, Chopin, Bach, Mozart. This is the life that you are, you're trying to live through. You're trying to be, emulate.
Probably more the pianist,
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you started doing performances.
Yes.
Right? Tell me about some of those.
There were many. The thing is, when you go to a school, particularly in the US, you have all these different extracurricular activities in which you could become involved. And there were a lot more musical activities than I could actually do. So the very first semester, I bit off a bit more than I could chew in terms of, I was in gospel choir. Why? Because I had that experience with New Life Singers.
Right.
I played with the orchestra, played harpsichord, which is something I had never done. And I was doing something else. I had piano lessons. Harpsichord is a precursor to the piano. So it's an instrument that has these. You pluck the strings. You play the key, but the mechanism plucks the strings. Sounds a little clicky, but that one. The other thing to note at MIT is that I felt constantly behind musically. Not really musically, because I knew my theory was solid. So I ate through the classes. Because,
it's funny you use the term musically here, but in your autobiography, you're using this term pianistically. It's a term that I've never heard.
So there's the technical stuff, and there's, what you want to say musically. What is the idea you want to put across to the audience? And then there's executing on it. So your technique, which is my definition of it and what I've come to understand, technique is essentially the ability to execute on an idea that you have. So for a lot of people who develop technique, quote unquote, the ability to just play whatever difficult pieces, if you have nothing to put across because you have not sat down and thought of how you want, what's what concept of the piece you have and how you want to put that across, then it does not come across. It comes across as just raw playing. And so while I was quite advanced musically, because I had all these experiences training choirs and dealing with the voice, which helps you to put things across in a more musical way, I was behind pianistically, and I saw a lot of my classmates can outplay me. So, I always felt as though, yes, I'm catching up. I'm trying to catch up at that point.
Some of the names that you mentioned that, and I want you to tell me who they were that you were able to twin with or, hitch on to, that took you, well, globally, really, Sean, because you've been in Russia, you've been, you've been on every continent, I believe.
Almost.
With the music.
Yeah.
Talk me through a bit of that.
So once I got done with school, I kept playing, I kept studying, and it got to a point where I wanted more playing opportunities. And one of the, because I did not study at a conservatory, I missed that. I didn't feel comfortable competing in those competitions. And then I was trying to get my regular career up and running. So I then focused on the amateur competitions. And I resisted that label quite a lot because it's annoying.
But you accept it now.
I accept it now because once I did my first amateur competition, which was the largest one, the Van Cliburn Amateur, where I got to the semifinals, I found a community of folks who are just like me. You have something that's going on.
Amateur competition, you did that in 2016, I think.
2016, correct. And I got to the semifinals, and then I guess I bit the bug at that point, or the bug bit me, and I did quite a few others. So what happens in the amateur world is you make friends, they tell you about other competitions, people invite you to play in other competitions, and you essentially plan your vacations around it.
So that's where you build your network, basically.
Yeah, that's where I've built my network.
Let's hold it there. We come back with our final segment. So we'll talk a bit about the SABGA.
Okay.
And we talk about some of the things that you've done here in St. Vincent as well, because I know you've given back. You haven't just, gone and left us. So when we come back, this is Let's Get Down to Business. My guest is Sean Sutherland. We'll be in our final segment when we come back.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Fincentions that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Let's Get Down to Business. On this edition, I'm going to be chatting with one of St. Vincent's finest brains. You'll meet him when we come back.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Fincentions that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
This is Let's Get Down to Business. I am chatting with Sean Sutherland. Sean,
Yes.
here I hold up this magazine again, the Anthony N. Sabga Awards 2021 edition. And as we started the program, we were showing you, and I'm going to show my audience, that you're here featuring as one of the people to receive an award, Arts and Letters. You are getting this award because of, I think, that same duality that you're talking about.
Yes.
Music and academics.
Yes.
So while that may have been, and you never really described it as a conflict, but while it may have been running along parallel lines,
Yeah.
as you get to this stage, people have recognized you no less than
Yes.
the Anthony Sabga,
Yeah.
right? Which is quite prestigious.
Yeah.
Right? People have recognized you for that same duality that
Yes.
that you may have grappled with.
Yes. So it's interesting because the duality has allowed me to do things that a lot of other people couldn't do. So, for example, when I was hired at UE by Professor Copeland to introduce music technology courses,
Right.
that was a special combination that I had. That
Professor Copeland is the man who is a professor who
Yes.
wanted to take the steel pan to a
Yes.
different level. And
the
he
G-Pan,
he actually
yes, that
designed a special instrument,
Yes,
which was
called-
based on the steel pan.
yeah, it's called a G-Pan, and he also has the. I think their lab does the electronic one as well. Yes.
Yeah. I actually interviewed Copeland at
Okay,
one time. You know,
yeah.
I interviewed him, must have been 9 years ago.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my boss.
So you're saying your duality allowed you to do that?
Just do that sort of thing. And I mean, a few other things, but I think that was the one time where I was like, oh, okay, these things actually fuse.
Yeah.
And it makes sense
Yeah.
here.
What else have you done on the local scene since you became accomplished? I'm not talking about
Okay.
your earlier achievements.
Yeah, I've worked with rhythmics. One of my childhood dreams was to do a all classical concert with steel orchestra.
Right.
I tried with grammar school when I was a student there, but that was a
So
little
this is what you
ambitious.
call ivory and steel?
Ivory and Steel, yes, back in 2005 when I came back to the region. And that for me was one of those dreams come true because it's one of those things where, and I think you'll see this as a common theme with me, like I'll conceptualize something and I'll work towards executing it. A little bit on the entrepreneurial side, you kind of make that clicks in your mind later, but I've always been about that, and that for me, I felt pretty good about it, especially doing that with achieving that with some of the original members from the grammar school steel orchestra.
Yeah.
That was
What we don't hear you talk a lot about, and I'm reading your bio sketch, is your other interest, and I'm sure you are, politics, human development, you know.
Yeah.
Do you see the music in particular, and of course, grounded with that fantastic academic background that you have, do you see that helping any advocacy at all that you have in terms of serving humanity, standing up for equal rights and justice, all the things that we grapple with, even today's language about global warming and bringing this 1.5 to a reality, has the music helped you, if at all, with any advocacy that you may have along those lines?
I would say maybe not as much. I think what my latest degree, yes, I've done 5 and still don't have a PhD, was in education, education design. And that came out of working with, after I did an MBA, I worked with students, doing a lot of test prep. I didn't get that nice finance job I wanted, but I made some lemonade nevertheless. And I got tired of repeating myself. So I was like, okay, let me learn how to design those platforms. But what that did was expose me to a whole other branch of learning, which is more the social sciences, which I had not done. And even though I had done music has its own traditions. and it's history and theory. You do not delve into the realm of, social issues,
Right.
and which you do in education.
Yeah.
And I think that was not only for me personally an eye-opener, because I realized that all along I really enjoy learning.
Yeah.
And just I like learning a lot of different things, whatever's interesting to me at the time.
Yeah.
But it's more, okay, you see how curriculum development can stymie a nation. You see how, if you want to implement some sort of social change, the curriculum is the place you do it.
Right.
And so I've learned about the power of that. And there are ways to fix it other than, just relying on the education system.
Yeah.
So I think that for me was my, I was always interested, yes, because I have these ideas about, musically, people being able to follow their passions, develop their talents. That I was big on that. But the equitable bit and the bit around making sure that we create a good society and how to do that is what I got a lot of from my year at Stanford.
It's funny you had mentioned the curriculum is the place where you fix
It is the place.
these things.
Yeah.
About 9 years ago, I had the good fortune of interviewing George Lamin, who famous Caribbean author, but In the Castle of My Skin was like his masterpiece. He came here to give us an independence lecture at the time, and we were talking about the system of government and that sort of thing. And he was saying, it would be a mistake if we thought that we could get Caribbean integration by following the current Westminster type model that we do. And he referred to the point that the only way we're going to achieve this is if you go back to the school curriculum at the very nursery stages, okay? And there inculcate your own concept of what the Caribbean is supposed to be, and your own concept and system of government. And he was very, he's very very strong in his belief. And I just thought it funny that you would mention the same thing.
And that's the thing, that's the one thing that was very clear during that year studying education design. Because you have to say, okay, what are my outcomes? And how do I design the curriculum or my learning experience to achieve those outcomes?
Sean, I'm going to take you back to these degrees that you glossed over, because I'm not going to let you. I'm just not going to let you get away with that.
There are 5 of them, yes.
I'm not going to let you get away with that. At MIT, you did.
I did 3. So bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering, computer science.
Right.
Bachelor's in music. So that's 3.
Right.
In 5 years. Then I did an MBA at McGill, focused on finance. And then I did a master's in education, specifically on learning and design technology at Stanford.
So, it's not just the degrees, but it's the schools.
Yeah. There's that too.
They are top schools.
Yeah.
MIT, McGill, Stanford.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not surprised at all that you are in this magazine, and you're doing St. Vincent really proud.
Thanks.
Let's talk a bit about St. Vincent. You live in Montreal.
Well, in Toronto.
In Toronto now.
Yeah.
Right? But let's talk a little bit about St. Vincent. Are we at a place that Sean would like us to be at? When you look at us?
No. No. I think there are many reasons for that. We don't have to get into all the details of that, but I think there are several things. What I see, especially in terms of education, I see a lot of kids. Yes, there are a lot. The literacy rates are ridiculous. That needs some work. I think there's a lot of remedial work that needs to be done. We cannot afford in this day and age to have these high levels of illiteracy.
Right.
And yes, we have, what is called not universal education, No Child Left Behind and all of that.
But that is universal education.
That has its problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot of kids, if you speak with teachers, there are problems that ought to be remedied. You have another thing where, are we adequately preparing students for the technology age and to take advantage of what technology, specifically computer science / coding, can offer. There are lots of kids, even in music, who are doing little entrepreneurial things and making quite a bit of money doing it. So, and a lot more than all the nice jobs, and they're in secondary school.
Do you think the Caribbean is, and I'm not trying to let St. off the hook,
Yeah.
but we are part of the Caribbean. And I think what you're explaining about us here, I'm sure we can just take that right across the Caribbean.
Yes.
Do you think we're spending too much time locked into the classical education?
I think so, because I spend time at UWI and I don't want to run UWI down. But at the same time, for example, I spent some time managing a software startup there that was trying to hire computer science grads across the Caribbean. Now, let me give you an example of what happens in Trinidad. There are 200 plus students who would apply to computer science, get admitted. Right. However, after 3-4 years, there are only 25 graduating. Now, what the hell is that? Quality assurance. I mean,
it's a very narrow bottleneck.
It's a very narrow bottleneck. And there are many, you could be like, the whole thinking is that, this is only for the brightest and the best. And
no. So we're caught up in prestige or something. Yeah, what is it?
I think there may be, some of that, and some people want to keep the field narrow for their own egos. And there's a lot of that at play. But I mean, as a university and as a region, we cannot afford to, 25 computer science graduates are going to be
does not move the needle.
Does not move the needle. And if you have 200 plus people interested, what is it about your education system that does not allow those 200 to graduate?
Or at least 90%.
Or 90%. There's something wrong. Yeah. And if you're not addressing that, what does that say? And then so the region is always further and further behind, because these 25 graduates are not going to be going into the schools to teach, because they're going to be absorbed for the most part by industry.
Yeah, and I don't want us to be coming down hard on UWI. But let's just take this to another point in terms of, and I'm speaking to you now as the academic. Okay, we'll get back to the music just now, but as the academic. Are we at the university level? That's just University West. Is the University West Indies providing a curriculum that takes students through coming back to solving our own issues? Or are we just training them for something abstract?
I think it depends on the department. I think some fields of discipline are inherently a little bit more abstract and theoretical than others.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Engineering is one such department where you're able to apply more. To apply more of your solutions to the community. I mean, I saw it even with my work, where my students. For whom I was in charge of supervising the undergrad project, did acoustic treatments of rooms at the university of a panyard. So there was direct impact. I mean, so my department may have been an anomaly, but but then you have the other thing is, big islands, small islands, are they dealing with problems that are in Trinidad, or they're dealing with problems that are in St. Vincent? And then it depends on the individual students to do so, to really tailor their research projects, if their supervisors are willing to, allow them to do so, and have them more of a, more focus on region.
Professor Vereen Shepherd, who I think is at Mona, historian. I don't know if she's still there, because this is quite a while ago that we had this chat. And she was lamenting the fact that a simple thing like Caribbean history was not a mandatory subject at UWI. I mean, I don't know if it is now.
I'm not sure, because I didn't go to UWI, but I can tell you, I have my own qualms in history. Yeah. I dropped history in Form 3, after Form 3. I was a top history student, because history was taught essentially regurgitate the dates and the facts, and that's it. And I found that boring.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
but you know that's what I thought history was when I came up.
That is the
But
point.
it's not.
And it's only later that you realize the context that history gives and helps you to understand a lot of things. But there's also this thing with science students where we believe that anything with the humanities is a waste of time.
Yeah, because that's for the second fold, you know.
Not necessarily even the second fold. It's just that that's not something that we as scientists occupy ourselves
because
with.
we're meant to be brighter than
Not even I wouldn't even say that because many of us would not. Many scientists will suffer in English literature.
You know, I'm bringing that up sarcastically, of course, because when I went to school, if you didn't do science, then you did something else, right?
Yeah,
and the something else was because you couldn't do science.
Yeah, but I think
there's that snob appeal.
There's that, and that I'm not going to say that is still not the case. I was speaking with just a friend of mine. Her son, I just like a few hours ago before I came here, and she was saying that for a lot of kids, it's easier to go from science to any other field. It's harder to go from another field to science. And so a lot of students, especially if they're undecided and they're smart, end up in science just to have that, from that card in their back pocket. So there's a bit of that there. But it's really something that we have to really understand and help people realize that, yes, the humanities are important, and they're becoming more and more important because you can create the most impressive app, but there are social, economic repercussions of those apps. Look at Facebook.
Yes.
You cannot deny that
the jury is out whether it's a force for good or bad.
Right. Yes, they may have started off as trying to solve one problem, but there are all these people who are going to use your apps to do other things other than you intended them to be. And so the problem is you are going to end up, you have to think through a lot of your designs and have that element of what's the impact on people, how are the users using this, etc. And I think the field that I'm in now is product management, kind of is there. You're looking not only at, okay, this is what you want, these are the requirements of whatever technology app or whatever you want to build, but how does it impact the user, and how does it impact broader society from a design perspective?
We're over on every single segment.
Of course we have. So we have to have a fifth one.
But that's I'm not going to have a fifth one, but I'm going to crave the indulgence of my producer here and just continue on for another couple of minutes.
Yeah, sure.
I asked you to look back at St. Vincent from where you were perched, for want of a better word. And so we're looking at the academics, and now let's talk about the arts.
Yeah.
What about our cultural development? What about the creative industries here? From your perspective, how are we managing that?
This could be controversial, but I think there's been a push for, steel pan and more indigenous cultural expressions. My issue with that is not that there's anything inherently wrong, is that people set it up as a either or, right? Now, the thing is, there are certain skills that a musician should possess that are transferable across, whatever instrument you play, whatever genre. And so we are neglecting to provide our students and our society as an extension with those fundamental skills.
What you call pure music, right?
You could call them pure music, musicianship, however you want to call it. But those skills are lacking across the board. And you could hear it in terms of, sometimes the quality of compositions that you hear. Like if you compare the musical content of, older calypsos versus some of the modern stuff.
Like a Frankie McIntosh record.
Yes, that doesn't come by accident. That's by design, and it requires a certain amount of training. If you look at church musicians who are not able to read scores and everybody plays by ear, yes, that's important, but being able to follow a score, if you're looking to provide band members who are able to hold their own when they go internationally, you go to a rehearsal, you're presented a score, are you able to read it? These are
And let's talk about our vocalists. What about vocal ranges? Do you think that
this is
the
the
music that we
this is the thing. I'm
hold
not,
as
Yeah.
our music, does it provide the avenues for
not
vocal
everyone.
ranges?
It could, but the thing is, it's not for singing clips, and certainly singing soca is not for everyone, right? If you, I mean, we don't have to we don't have to go down that road so much. But the point is that the genres that are available locally, or the genres on which we focus, are not necessarily the best for developing someone's voice. Look at Marshall Montano. Marshall Montano could have sang, could have sung when he was younger.
Right.
You listen to him trying to sing that the song that made him popular when he was a kid. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, is that a good thing?
I mean, the jury is out, right? Because I think people are studying what can they monetize.
Yes.
Right. So if they're able to monetize this, then they're achieving some results.
Right. But at the end of the day, if you look at like Marshall, from that standpoint, you look at Whitney Houston, they can sing. Before she died, she could not hold a note. She could not complete a half an hour concert. Now that talks to being properly trained to take care of your instrument. This is something, regardless of what genre you're in, that you should know how to do. And these are things that should be accessible to you through some sort of proper training. Like, a lot of people do not realize that the voice doesn't mature until you're 26. Exactly. So any sort of heavy work on it, and bad vocal technique earlier can destroy you for quite a long time. These are things that the classical, quote unquote, classical singers would know, because they're trained to handle their instruments with some care. So these things are missing.
Well, I'm sure that we can stay here and speak forever and ever on the gaps that exist, and there are many. But my final question to you, Sean, is what next?
What next?
You're an overachiever, man.
Yes. I've learned to accept that. It's changed forms, but I think one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that I tend to envision things and then figure out ways of achieving them. And I think you may see a bit more of that, hopefully.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and congratulations
Thank you very much
on your award.
Thank you.
And I would like to speak to you sometime in the future to see where Sean has gotten to.
Sounds like a plan.
You have been looking at Let's Get Down to Business. My guest was the recently awarded laureate in letters and arts. I believe I got that correctly.
Arts and letters.
Arts and letters. Sean Sutherland.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Pensentions that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company,